everyone, and welcome to Create with Chris. I'm here today live at Cupboard Distributing, and we are going to be learning some fun techniques about how to substitute other options for the decorative tissues, the postal, the melange. If you're familiar with those, we're going to go that route today. So let me introduce myself. I am Chris Haughey, owner of Cupboard Distributing, the Scrapbook outlet, pixelated palette. I'm a decorative painter, a designer, CD stencils. I'm the owner and founder of all of these. Love to create, love to paint, and I love to share what I know. So today we're going to talk about the tissue. And I know a lot of you have used this. Get my rights and lefts here. This is a product that was put out by Tim Holtz, and it is a fantastic product. Used it many, many times as background. Just adds so much interest, makes your project very trendy, and unfortunately, in this past year or so, it has been discontinued. So when we as decorative painters find out that one of our beloved products is no longer available, we do what we do best, and that is to get creative and try to come up with other options to be able to provide that same effect. And I always don't think that when a product is discontinued it's a bad thing, because it does encourage us to be creative. And this is where we really start to get our creative wheels turning. And this is often where the best ideas come from. So as a result of we can't go this road any longer, we're going to go down another creative avenue. Sometimes that's a better place to be. So let me get started here. Okay, I love when I can't poke my finger. Okay, there we go. Alrighty, this is the tissue, and if you are not familiar with it, it comes on a roll kind of similar to a cling wrap or Reynolds wrap, and it just is really neat paper that has a lot of decorative designs on it. This one's called Melange, and it has music notes and butterflies and some really beautiful script and print on it. Now, I don't know if you can tell, you can probably see my hand beneath it. It's very translucent. So as a result, we can put it on a background depending on what color is below it. Kind of sets the tone for the entire project. This is Melange. This is what is called postal. This one, I call this one kind of Victorian. I call this one kind of more industrial because it has these really cool postmark images. And I don't know if you can see right there, this big round one. See, it says September 24th. That's my birthday, and I thought that was super cool that they would make this paper in honor of me. It does say 1944. That's about 10 years before I was here, so I don't think that's accurate, but I did like the idea. So if you'll notice on a lot of my designs, if I do use this, the September 24th is in a rather prominent place. So that's your little tidbit of information for today. Alrighty, so some of the things that I have done with this paper. This one is my Americana Blessings. Look how lovely that is in the background. This is the postal. Let me move these out of the way. This one was a pumpkin that I did. Again, the background's there. It's just kind of, I know when you're creating it, it seems very vivid, but it's very workable. You can tone it down. You can let it be vibrant in the background. This one's a little more vibrant. You notice that you can even see it through the pumpkin. I thought that was super cool. This one the same way, very vibrant, but I did tone down the foreground elements so they were a little more opaque, and the background became and stayed in the background. Some of the other ones, I've got a big stack over here. This one is using the Melange, which had the butterflies on it. Hopefully you can see the butterfly back here. because this was like front and center, it was so very bold that I did some really muted color washing over it. And you can see what a difference between the intensity of the background here compared to if you put a little more opaque color over it, how much softer that design becomes. Very workable. The tissue is super, super fun and just really easy to create a lot of different looks. Alrighty, so we don't have the tissue anymore. So what do we do in lieu of the tissue? So here's another one I did with music notes in the background. And my little jingle, that one had music notes in it too. So other options, scrapbook paper. And there are tons of scrapbook paper out there that you can select from with different designs on them. This works absolutely wonderful. You just adhere it to the surface with decoupage. And I would recommend that you decoupage it to the surface, let it dry, and then lightly sand the edges to get a clean, crisp cut. One thing about paper, when you dampen it, it does stretch. So if I were to trace this out, cut around it, decoupage it on, the chances of having a perfect edge are very slim because the paper is going to stretch when you put it on, shrink when you dry, so the edges may not always be perfect. So I recommend just putting it on with decoupage, letting it dry, take some sandpaper and just buff the edges until it comes clean, and then you'll have a perfect edge on it every time. The downside to scrapbook paper is you have to deal with decoupage. Don't always have good luck when it comes to decoupaging paper onto a surface. Also, color. The melange is relatively, well, the tissue is relatively neutral in color, so whatever color I put over it, it's going to take on that hue. As you can see with the scrapbook paper, this one is definitely blue, and this one's definitely leans toward the tans or golden tones. So if I use either one of these, obviously I'm going to get this one would work well for this, and this is going to work well for that. But then you're going to have to hunt paper that's the right color, and then you're going to have a stash of paper. So scrapbook paper is great, but it's not my cup of tea. So we'll leave it at that. So what would I do in lieu of scrapbook paper since we no longer have the tissue? I love using stamps, and I did show how to use the stamps a few weeks ago. So if you're not familiar how to do stamping, I do have a nice little Create with Chris that I did that shows how to do this. I'm not a big fan of using the inks. If you do use inks, I should have grabbed a pad, but if you do want to use inks, the best thing to do is stick with the pigment inks and the, I believe it's, let me look real quick, I think it's the Versa ink pads that, and Lindsay is here on the other end, so she will definitely let you know which one of the inks works best. And the reason I say you have to be careful if you don't use a pigment ink, if you use a dye ink. Is it Stay Put, Lindsay? I think that's it. Or okay, I'm having a mental blank here. But if you don't use the dye inks, when you go to paint over it, it's going to reactivate it, and they're going to go all over the place. Not a good thing for a painter. So definitely use the correct, it has to be a dye, or a pigment ink, I'm sorry. I'll have you totally confused, won't I? You have to use a pigment ink if you want the ink to stay put when you start to paint over it. I am very comfortable with paint, so I choose to use actual paint to stamp with. What is it? Stays on? Archival ink. Okay, that's what it is. Thank you, Lindsay. I use my awesome specialty sponges. The top of it is super flat, or the ends, they come in a set of 2, so you can get different sizes, fit any project. When I look at this, I think it replicates a stamp pad. So to use this to apply paint to a stamp is it makes a lot of sense, and it's very easy to work with. So I get my stamp, I put my paint on it, and then I can stamp around and create my background images with the stamp. So stamping is absolutely a perfect way to go. Another option is printed paper, so you could go online and download printed paper, whatever you want, and decoupage that on as well. But you do have to be careful when you decoupage copy paper, because sometimes it has a tendency to wrinkle up. I still lean towards stamping because I'm very comfortable with the paint, I'm very comfortable with the stamps. They don't have to be perfect. This is background, so you can put those on there, and it's just absolutely going to be a great result. So I wanted to show you some of the different options. And we're going to kind of stick with the stamping because I just really feel like that is such a perfect solution. Any kind of a calligraphy or wording stamp is just absolutely perfect. Now, do you have to have a certain stamp? Absolutely not. I have done this particular class many, many times. You can see in the background there's different stamped images in there, and I use whatever I have on hand. But look what a difference that little bit actually does to the background. This one is stamped with Payne's Gray because I used Payne's Gray in a lot of the other areas. You want to keep that continuity. This is a good way to pull it all together. And looks like that was this stamp that I used on this particular one. Another fun stamp that, if you're not into doing a whole bunch of individual stamping, is this. It's called the Posted Script, and everything is available at Cupboard Distributing, www.cdwood.com. This one's fun because it's so big, and you still have that random look of that you get with the postal. So not a whole lot of difference. You don't have to worry about, putting it all together. Here's another one that's a lot of fun because it has so many different elements. You can just stamp them around until you fill it up as you want. Now, with the melange, it had butterflies and music notes. So here you go. Butterflies and music notes. You got the thing. You can add some of the script on there. You see where I'm going? This is so versatile. You don't need a whole bunch of stamps. You just need a few key stamps, and your possibilities are absolutely endless. Alrighty, so one of my favorite stamps, and this is brand new. It just came out, I think it was this year. Well, it's not been very long. This is called Posted Script. This has everything you need in it. You've got your little postmark. You've got some, this one kind of is reminiscent of a postcard address. You've got some scroll. Absolutely love, love, love the crackle. You'll use this a million times. And then you have your, just your script. I did this with my little gnome. This was in the pixelated palette. But look at that background, just kind of crazy. And what I did was I stamped all around with kind of the, this script, and then that one, and then I added these little postmarks kind of randomly around to break it up. I even went back after I was finished and added this border. So this stamp set is just absolutely priceless. I use this a lot. But look at the background. It just creates so much interest, and it's so very quick and easy to do. Again, you just put paint on the back of the stamp. You can choose what color you want. You can choose your own placement. If you don't want a lot of stamping in any area, just kind of back off. You can have open areas. It doesn't have to be solid. But this gives you the freedom of creativity to do your own thing, whatever color, whatever placement. Okay, another one that is similar to the holly I showed you is the poinsettia. And again, this one is the Christmas background stamp. Just has a lot of really pretty Christmas sayings. And I forgot to get that stamp, but I'll give you a couple examples. What is fun with this is I did a tone on tone. So my background, I think, is stamped with light cinnamon, and then I have those golden tones. Gives it that kind of an aged parchment look. Love this look. And again, it's so easy to create. I don't like to double stamp, and by that I mean I don't let them overlap because it starts to get a little too busy. But one thing nice about a stamp.
Someone asked if you could use vellum as a background.
Use vellum as a background. Vellum has a really unique personality. And what I have found with vellum, it's a little too heavy and crunchy. When you decoupage it on, it gets a very, I don't know, kind of an ornery personality. It doesn't like to lay smooth. It's hard to stamp on vellum. Sometimes it will smear. Vellum is very hard to work with. So in answer to that question, I stay away from vellum because everything on the back side of vellum will show through. Any mediums, if they're not perfectly smooth, you're going to get a lot of that visibility and it's going to look kind of messy. So I hope that answers your question on the vellum. Back to this is tone on tone, and I don't overlap because when you overlap it gets too busy. It looks just kind of on top of each other. It just becomes kind of confusing. So with the flexible stamps, if you have an area, you can just kind of put paint on part of a stamp and just kind of maybe touch a corner in there. And you can see I went in here and I just put a part of a stamp there. And if you look really close, you can probably see places where I just added a partial stamping just to fill in a certain place in that area because I wanted this one to be solid. This is a dark background with a lighter stamped image on it. These two are the same stamp. Actually, all three of these are the same stamp. So you can see what a different look. I have one stamp that I use over and over and over, and I can get totally different looks. You get a lot of bang for your buck when you get stamps that are versatile. And that's why I like some of the word stamps. This Christmas background is awesome. The postage script or grunge script. Any of the ones that are very generic is a good word that can be used over and over are just ideal. You'll definitely get your money's worth out of them. Okay, another fun thing that you can do with the stamps is, this one is has all different kinds of words of snow on it. This is an older stamp, and I think that one is either it is going to be discontinued. I think that it was dropped from their new line. But look what I did. This is not fun. Now this does have the postal in the background. Again, I would just grab a stamp and create my own background. But where the hat is, I just stamped the snow, and what I did was stagger it so that it didn't look like the same one used over and over. So when you look at this, it looks like I had a big stamp, when in essence what I did was I just stamped smaller images on that. Same thing with this one. I wanted to have that stamp down the side, and then I took my liner brush and I made certain words stand out more by painting them white and adding some, I don't know if you can see, but it has glamour dust on it. This was a set, so I did several, just highlighted the different words. Again, one stamp can be very, very versatile. I created a frame and I just stamped this around the outer edge of the frame. It's just really fun to see how many different ways you can use the same stamp. This is another one that if you are looking for a collage stamp, so you don't have to repeat to fill up the background, you get a bigger stamp, you're going to cover more area, and it's going to be one stamp and you're done. That's what I did on this. Put it on there. Now this one didn't quite fit. You can see I had some, my surface was a little bigger than the stamp. So what I did was I stamped this area, then I went back and I put this, and I kind of move them around so that you can't tell that it was pieced together. And by what I mean by that, I didn't just take this and move it over and move it down. I kind of rotated the stamp. Anytime you rotate a stamp, you're going to get a totally different look. So rotating a stamp is an excellent way to get more mileage out of your stamp. And I'm going to go back to this little gnome because I use the same stamp, and it's not a very big stamp. It's that big, but I use that same stamp around the edge, and I just rotated it and used parts of it and added little bits and pieces to kind of fill in this border and to make it look like it wasn't a stamp, but maybe a lace edging. And on this one, I stamped it and then I just color washed over top of it to, again, to get that parchment look. What a huge difference it makes when you have a interesting background. Again, it's not your focal point. It's just something to add more interest and to bring it up a couple notches. Alrighty, this one is another one of my favorite stamps. It's called Arabesque, and I love using it because it is such a gorgeous, gorgeous design. On this one, I stamped in a couple colors. So I had the dark turquoise, and then I stamped it in white so that I get more of a wallpaper effect instead of just a stamped effect. Same thing with this one. Two tones of stamping, a light and a dark. I've got a medium tone background. Stamp it darker, stamp it lighter. You create depth, and it adds, again, a lot of interest. On the birds, and I know I've talked about this before, I added a few stampings of this arabesque, mostly to kind of create the back continuity in the background and pull it all together and lighten it up. So it just breaks it up and adds that soft, soft design. It's just absolutely a great way to add interest. You look so much better. Everybody goes, wow, how did you do that? And every time I stamp, I think, especially something like this, oh my goodness, how long would that take with a liner brush? I'd like to say I'm a pretty good painter, but when it comes to painting something like this, I don't think so. Alrighty. So let me go back. I've got one more here. This was one I had so much. Okay, this is another 6x6 stamp. Love this design. But when I first saw it, I thought, golly, that's so busy that I'm not sure how I would use it in decorative painting. Is it going to overwhelm? Is it going to create more busyness than what I want in my background? So I did this project, and this is, I think I'll have to go this way with it. It says home, where memories are made. And get that all in there, maybe not. Okay, this was one of the projects, and I love when this happens. It it was almost finished before I even got started. It just is super simple. It looks impressive, but oh my goodness. The only thing, I did image transfer for all the lettering. So actually, I did stamping on the background. I did this really cool chip edging, and I did a video on that a couple weeks ago. The only thing that I actually really painted was the little wreath. And I had a gal tell me, we were at one of the conventions, and she had an idea. She was going to put little hooks at the bottom and hang this horizontally and use it for to hang keys on. And she said, I think what I'll do is put a hook here, and I'll just change the wreath out for different seasons. I thought that was a great idea. So, different ideas. I love talking to people when we do the conventions because they always share what they've done with my designs, and I love to hear about that. So, I want to encourage you to be versatile because this can really, really take you down some fun roads, and the results are spectacular. This is where most of the ideas come from. Let me go over here and okay, there I am. And we'll get rid of this. Okay, so I hope that helps because you get patterns and it gets a little frustrating when you get ready to paint something and this is no longer available or that is no longer available. And I know as a painter, when you see a project finished and that's what you want to do, you get a little discouraged when those supplies are not available. So I hope this gives you some options because the tissue is a great look. And to be able to create that very easily using the stamps, or if you prefer decoupaging paper on, it's just a wonderful way to add that element of design without stressing about or working too hard to create it. So encourage you to try, to play, to look around what you already have in your stash because a lot of times what you have on hand is something that can create something really cool. So play around with it and check it out. Now, next week is the 4th of July weekend, or this coming weekend is 4th of July weekend. So I wanted to wish everyone a happy and safe holiday. I know with all the restrictions we have, a lot of people are staying home. So if you're staying home, I hope you do something fun and creative, and maybe you can share it and let everybody know how creative you have been. I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you can customize your own backgrounds. I would love to see them. So if you've done something really cool, put it on Facebook and share it up because we all love to see, and that's how we learn together. Now, because next weekend or this coming weekend is the 4th of July weekend, I'm not going to be doing a Create with Chris next Tuesday. So I'll be back on July 14th. And a couple weeks ago, I painted an ornament with you, and you guys really, really loved it. So I do listen to you, and decided, let me see if I can go here. I am going to, we came up with some new surfaces here at Cupboard Distributing, and these are just so much fun. So I painted this little guy, and there we go. I am going to be painting this on July 14th. So if you want to paint along with me, Lindsay went ahead and put the surface online, and she'll probably give you a link for that. But I will put the instructions and the line drawing online so you can download those for free, and you can jump online on July 14th. And join me, and we will paint this together. It's kind of like, I remember when I was a kid, the show Sing Along with Mitch, and you can paint along with Chris. Alrighty, so another thing, Don't forget Summerfest, Zoom Summerfest 2020 here at Cupboard Distributing. And I am hosting Summerfest this year with Sandy McTeer. We have the classes posted online at Cupboard Distributing, www.cdwood.com. You can go online, click on Summerfest 2020, and class choices are there. Class kits will be sent out once you sign up. I think we're going to start shipping those out mid-July, so that's coming up rather quickly. And you'll get everything you need. Shipping is included, class surfaces, prep instructions, everything's listed. You'll get everything in your class kit that you'll need for this. It'll also show a list of supplies so you can gather up your paints and brushes. If you need anything, again, Cupboard Distributing, www.cdwood.com. We'll have everything you need if you need any paints or brushes for the classes. And on that note, I think that's it for everything I have to tell you today. So again, have a happy 4th. Celebrate our great country and have a good time with your family. Stay safe. And I'll see you back here, Create with Chris, at Cupboard Distributing on July 14th. Bye-bye.